some technical issues in terms of the broadcast right there, but all is being worked upon to ensure that we deliver to you the quality of the business that you need. Of course, now we start with Niger, and this time around we are looking at oil. The oil in Niger, as the jet to pump more crude as pipeline works to accelerate, and that's of course to import more crude oil as the pipeline works to accelerate. Masked and helmeted Chinese and Nigerian workers that hoist giant steel pipes over mounds of earth, of course far away smoke pillars of that blow torches camouflaged in the millet fields. That's heavily armed soldiers are on the lookout right there. So in Gaya in southwestern Niger, near Benin, the largest oil pipeline in Africa is taking shape. That's nearly 2,000 kilometers long. That's to 1,250 kilometers, which is in Niger. The pipeline is linked to the oil wells that's in Agadem field. That's far east, the scene of deadly jihadist that's incursions to the Beninese port of Sem, where a Nigerian crude will be evacuated for the very first time. Okay, with the modest production of 20,000 barrels per day, Niger, one of the poorest states in the world, became an oil producer that was in 2011. The black gold extracted by China National Petroleum Corporation is transported, that's by pipelines, to Zenda. That's where it is refined. All right. Initially, Niger had planned to evacuate its crude through the Cameroonian port, that's of Kribi, via neighboring Chad, before opting for the Benin corridor. Launched in 2019, the project was supposed to be completed, that is in 2022, but the COVID-19 pandemic slowed down the progression of the different activity. So Nifo Isaka, the deputy general manager of the West African oil pipeline company, that's the project owner, told AFP. WAPCO, that's a subsidiary that's of CNPC, is now working hard. That's more than 600 kilometers of pipes have already been laid. For example, 51.5% completion rate. That's the rate that shows you that almost the pipelines are halfway to the accomplishment right there. And Niger would sell its crude on the international market. That's in October or November 2023. Of course, that's what they hope regarding that. And more than 700 soldiers are deployed to ensure permanent security of the work, even if the large part of the areas it crosses so far spared. That's from the jihadist violence. A security source told AFP on condition that's of anonymity. Right, as we wind up this report with the continued collapse of revenues, that's from uranium, that's of which Niger is a major producer. The country is counting that's on black gold to boost its budget, much of which is being injected into the fight that's against the jihadist groups in the southeast and the west. All right, and that's away from Niger, and now we cross borders away from the continent as we head to the United States of America. And this time around we are looking at the inflation, which is rising like never expected before. Consumer prices in the United States rose further than expected. That's last month, in a sign that the inflation fight that's in the world and the world's largest economy is far from over. The inflation rate at which prices rise was 8.2%. That's in the 12 months to September, down to 8.3%. That's in August. Despite the fall, the figure was still higher than the forecast. Inflation in the United States is being closely watched as the United States Central Bank efforts to tame the problem push up. That's the dollar and global, of course, borrowing costs. Wow, very interesting, of course, attempts done by the Federal Reserve Bank of the America to ensure that the dollar actually gains some little bit of some weight when it comes to the different exchange rates. Of course, the major reserve currencies in the world, like the euro, and we see how the dollar performs against that. It's been quite fair. That's in the past weeks. And of course, there are attempts to raise it to quite bigger basis points to raise the value, but sometimes it tends to make matters much more worse regarding that. But of course, we hope that the Federal Reserve Bank will handle that situation to ensure that the the world's largest economy, stabilizes. Of course, as we still continue with the report, the rate is well above the central bank's 2% target, and that means the Federal Reserve is likely to continue to keep the raising, that's the interest rates, in an attempt to cool the rising prices. Okay, stock markets fell sharply. That's following the report, which disappointed investors who had previously been cheered up by other signs like the decline that's in shipping costs that seemed to signal the problem might be subsiding. Of course, inflation in the U.S. has dropped back since hitting 9.1% in June, helped that's by a fall in the fuel prices that's at the pump. But the issue continues to affect other parts of the economy. That's grocery prices have jumped 13% over the past 12 months, and housing medical costs are also rising sharply. At the same time, by raising interest rates, the Federal Reserve Bank makes borrowing much more expensive. That is intended to reduce demand, especially for big ticket items such as cars, homes, and ease the pressures pushing up the prices. All right, but by slowing activity, the Federal Reserve Bank also risks tipping the economy into a recession. Analysts see that the outcome has increasingly likely since inflation has proven that stubbornly resistant to the Fed's efforts so far. All right, as we wind up this report of the inflation in the United States, concerns are also growing about the Fed's rate rises, which tend to redirect money to the United States economy and boost the dollar which will affect the rest of the world, where many countries are wrestling with their own inflation problems. What does it mean if the dollar collapses? Remember, majority of the countries use the dollar as the major reserve currency right there, and it determines the balance of the payment. So what's the fate of the world if the world's largest economy faces such grief? All right, and now let's get straight to Kenya. We are back from the United States, and now we're back to Africa, and particularly in the East African region. And now we are looking at Kenya, and this time around we're looking at the SGR loans. China fines Kenya 1.31 billion shillings defaulting on SGR loans. All right. Over half a trillion shillings, that's from the Chinese lenders led by the Export-Import Bank, that's of China, to refund construction of the SGR from Mombasa to Naivasha. Taxpayers have been forced to shoulder the burden that's of the SGR loans because the revenues generated from the passenger and cargo services on the truck are not enough to meet the operation costs, which stood at 0.5 billion shillings. That's in the year to June. That's in August sales. We are looking at 15 billion Kenyan shillings. Of course, not being in position to meet the targets to ensure that these loans are actually cleared on time. SGR posted an operation loss of 3.4 billion Kenyan shillings as wired to 22.7 billion shillings in loan repayments in the year of June. The default came in a year when Kenya had asked for an extension of the date repayment, that's moratorium, that's from bilateral lenders, including China, that's by another 6 months to December 2021, saving it from committing billions to the Beijing lenders. Okay, but the lenders, especially Exim Bank of China, opposed Kenya's application for date repayment holiday in a standoff that delayed that's the disbursements to projects funded by Chinese loans. China postponed the repayments that's in January, that was last year, helping Kenya temporarily, of course, retain 27 billion that was due for the 6 months ending June 2021. The opposition from the Chinese lenders forced Nairobi to drop its push for extension, that's for the date repayment holiday, to avoid straining regulations with Kenya's biggest bilateral creditor. All right, and that's it for the international news, and it's exactly 52 minutes past the hour of 7 a.m. Just 8 minutes to the top of the hour. That's 8 a.m. And at this very time, let's get straight into the business tips and quotes. But firstly, let's review the business tip of the day. The business tip of the day says tell your story visually. Like visuals can help your message become that's auctionable, like video, whiteboards, images, and other pictures. Well, and of course, we'll show you how your prospects problem will be solved. Of course, what you're selling. By using images, you create contrast, which can create the feeling of urgency. Maybe we've done this before, but just to give you more highlight, it's always important, as much as you have something in your mind, let it be visual, because at the end of the day, you have to see, if somebody tells you where do you see yourself, where are you heading, what's your vision, despite uttering it out with words, you must be in position to actually put it on paper. And when you put it on paper, it will give you the courage and of course and the ability to ensure that you execute that. And of course, this reminds me back still in the story, for those of you actually who are good Bible readers, of the prophet that was lamenting, telling God these things are not happening, but God told him, write what you see on paper. So this is something that is divine. It's way from what we call ancient wisdom. You need to visualize. It's not by accident that still in the current generation, it's still applicable. Visualize your dream. That will make it possible for it to be executed. And now let's wind it up with the business quote of the day. The business quote of the day that was written by Jack Dorsey, the co-founder of Twitter. It says, make every detail perfect and limit the number of details to perfect. Wow. All right, literally perfection. Remember, everything we do has the details part of it. When we talk about business, whatever career you pursue, there is that detail that you need to ensure that you have your craft on point. So the question is, what if you perfect that detail? That will be quite, because something something to be seen visually, or a certain achievement somebody made, there are those details, there are those what I can call efforts that have been put together by this person to ensure that they come up with this craft. But the co-founder of Twitter says, what if you perfect each of those details? What will happen? Definitely, it will be an icebreaker and a door opener for you as you are pursuing your journey of any career or any business you're trying to pursue. Of course, 4 minutes to the top of the hour, that's 8 a.m. And that's it for now. Let's get into a short commercial break. We'll return with a coffee cut. Good morning.
Smart 24, driving business. Vimba ne MTN kabode super esimu ya sereza nga bw'okisasulira mpola mpola kuba amasimu kyusa zi status za WhatsApp laba bu video ku YouTube oba kozesa Google okumanya buli ekiri wansi w'enjuba ku GB2 ze tukuweza buli mwezi okumala emyezi 7 sasulako emitwalo 99 zokka ezisigadde osasula mpola mpola kati okola ki leero genda ku dduuka lya MTN erikuli okumpi weefunire MTN kabode super mangu. This is Jordan.
When it comes to classwork, Jordan is magic. Jordan shines. Jordan makes his peers better. Jordan is a true leader. White Star Magic family. Be a leader. Be magic.
Every new day brings new opportunities for you to conquer the business world. Start your day with a show that will drive your business. Be the first to know the latest prices around town, the latest business information around the country and the world. We bring you in-depth analysis with exclusive interviews from key players. And of course, wouldn't you want that for your morning? Get up to speed with what is trending in the business world